Hey YouTube fam, I hope you are doing so well. We are going to jump into a short but spicy intermediate/advanced practice today. There's going to be some funky, playful transitions, opportunities for arm balances, inversions, all of the things. We're going for 30-ish minutes. As you know, that's always give or take. And just so you all know, I have a membership website called the Kula where I upload 3 classes every single week. There are guest teachers, there are challenges, series, there's regular breathwork and meditation, as well as all sorts of, all levels of practices, all lengths of practices, all sorts of styles of practices. There's so much in there, more than 500 classes. I also am hosting a 200-hour teacher training in March of 2024. This is happening in Italy, and registration opens July 1st. So if you're interested in either of these things, the links are all below. I'm also working on some upcoming retreats and a 300-hour teacher training program as well. So stay tuned on all of the above. For now, let's jump into a spicy practice, and because it's shorter, we're gonna come right into movement. So forward fold at the top of the mat, with feet hip-width distance apart. A pretty generous bend into the knees to start, and then clasp opposite elbows and find a bit of a sway side to side. Dropping the weight of the head, maybe shaking the head, yes, no, rolling out the back of the neck. Maybe closing down the eyes here so that you can really tune into the rhythms of you, connect a little bit deeper to you as we make our way into this movement practice. Find your way into stillness, into neutral. Can you let the elbows hang a little bit closer to the floor, even if that means a little bit more of a bend into the knees, lengthening into the low back. And then release the fingertips down towards the mat. With your inhale, halfway lift, lengthen through the spine, crown of the head extends forward, hold, knit the lower ribs up and in. Take a big inhale here. Open the mouth as you exhale, fold forward, letting it all go. Plant into the hands, take a big step back into your plank shape, wrists underneath the shoulders. Take some circles on the wrists here. Rolling out in one direction, and then in the other. You can drop the knees down at any point that you might need to here. We're gonna flip the hands so fingers point towards the edges of the mat, wrists face each other, take a shift side to side. You can either stay as you are, or you can play with flipping fingers back around so that they point towards the toes, a bit of a bend into the elbows. This is a challenging shape to be in, so please modify as you need. You can have the fingers rotated out or even forward. Keep the hands wherever they are, however they are. Drop the knees to the floor into a tabletop position. Maybe the fingers are still rotated back. Move through a couple cycles of your cat-cow. In breath, open collarbones, lift tailbone, lift gaze. Exhale, round through the back body. In breath, open. Out breath, close. In breath. Out breath. Find your way back through neutral. Flipping hands back forward if they've gone elsewhere, if they are still elsewhere. And then a big step forward with the hands, melting the heart towards a puppy pose. So chest towards the floor, gaze is forward. Forearms to the mat if possible. You can even find a bit of a press of the hands and maybe even the elbows into the floor to traction the heart a little bit closer down. We're going to keep the forearms to the mat as we kind of pull through or roll through into a sphinx pose. So a tuck of the tailbone, maybe a ripple up the spine as you keep the elbows to the mat, send the hips down and forward, engage into glutes. Sphinx pose. Check that the elbows are underneath the shoulders, and if that shape is quite tight, you can step the hands forward a little bit. Option to stay as you are or to ground into the finger pads and knuckle pads and lift the elbows either to a hover or arms to straighten out. But either way, can you traction the hands, a little pull of the hands towards the hip bones to pull the heart a little bit farther forward and to get long and tall through the crown of the head. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, forearms back down to the floor, tuck onto the toes. Knees stay grounded at first so that you can lift the hips. And then lift the knees, find a forearm plank. A little bit of a shift forward and back. Again, firing up the core. Firing up the muscles of the shoulders. Find your way through stillness. And then come to the outside edge of the left foot, inside edge of the right foot. Stay on the left forearm as right fingertips sweep up and overhead. As you're ready for it, you could lengthen right hand towards the top of the mat. So you're finding length from the right middle finger all the way to the outside edge of the right foot. Circle through center, find your forearm plank, and then to the other side, outside edge of the right foot down, inside edge of the left foot down, left fingertips lift up and over. You could circle left hand towards the top of the mat, lengthening out down the left side body, and then on your in-breath, roll through center, find your forearm plank. This time, walking the toes in towards your dolphin pose. Totally fine if you have a bend into the knees here. I want you to think of tractioning the heart back towards the thighs. Heels kick towards the floor. Walk the toes back, forearm plank. Soften the knees down, untuck the toes, roll the heart through, Sphinx pose. Heart pulls forward, get tall through the crown of the head, take an inhale. As you exhale, lower the heart to the floor and slide the hands back underneath the shoulders, tuck onto the toes. You can keep knees grounded along the way. Know that we're headed towards plank pose, but we're gonna take a count of 8 to get there. So if you're with me, here's 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. High plank. Roll the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. Pedal at the feet here. Bending into one knee, bending into the other knee, shifting the hip side to side, movement that feels good in the body. Come up onto toes, bend into knees. On your exhale, step, walk, or hop the feet top of the mat, find your fold. In breath, halfway lift, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, fold, let it go. In breath, rise, come all the way to stand, arms sweep up and over. As you exhale, cactus the elbows, open the heart space, elbows pull towards the hip bones as you elevate the heart. In breath, get tall, reach through fingers. Out breath, bend into the knees, chair pose, send the hips back, send the heart forward. Slight tuck of the tailbone, core is strong. As you exhale, lift the hips, forward fold. Plant into the hands. Crow pose, knees to the backs of the arms, heel squeeze into the glutes, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step, hop, invert, play. However you get to the back of the mat, moving it through a vinyasa. We meet with the hips up and back. Downward dog, picking up our rhythm, a couple rounds of this modified sunny, bend into the knees, let your exhale carry the feet to the top of the mat. In breath, half lift. Out breath, fold. In breath, rise, all the way to stand. Cactus the arms at the top as you open up the heart space. In breath, get tall. Out breath, chair pose. Bend into the knees, hips back, heart forward. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, lift the hips, forward fold. Plant the hands. Can you lean into it? Crow pose, knees to the arms, heels into the glutes. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your vinyasa, or whatever movement carries you to a down dog along the way. One more round. Bend into the knees. Exhale, step, walk, hop, play. However you get to the top of the mat. In breath, half lift. Exhale, move it through. In breath, rise all the way to stand. Arms sweep up and over. Exhale, cactus the arms, open up the heart. In breath, get tall. Out breath, bend into knees, chair pose, pull the hips back, heart forward. Sink deep into the shape, squeeze heels towards each other. On your exhale, as you lift the hips, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant hands, lean into it, crow pose, bakasana, heels squeeze into the glutes, hold for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whatever movement carries you to a down dog, move with rhythm of breath along the way. From your down dog, on an inhale, sweep the right toes high, bending into the right knee and open up the hip. And then drop the left forearm down to the mat. Big press into the right hand. Shift the right shoulder down a bit. And then grounding into the left hand. On your exhale, lift the left elbow as you do, curl in, right knee to nose. In breath, kick back, bend into the knee, open hip as left forearm comes to the floor. Exhale, curl in, right knee to nose, left forearm lifts. In breath, kick back, open up, last time left forearm to the mat. As the left forearm lifts, curl right knee to nose, step the right foot all the way through. Left knee drops as you inhale, Anjaneyasana, upper body lifts, palms touch, open up the heart space. As you exhale, hands to touch at the heart, standing split. So without the help of the hands, kick the left toes up towards sky. Diving the heart forward. As much of a bend in the right knee as you need to plant hands onto the floor. Welcome to play with a hop towards handstand along the way to catch that balance towards handstand along the way. We're going to eventually land in a three-legged down dog with the right foot to the back of the mat and the left toes lifted. So big hop, right toes back, left toes high, three-legged down dog. On your exhale, left knee, left elbow, pause. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Step the left foot to the outside of the left hand. A little bit of a bounce with the hips here, just for a moment. Just a little bit of a bounce. Take one full cycle of breath. And then soften the right knee down to the floor as you reach the left fingertips forward first, and then up and over. Option to bend into the right knee and reach left hand around to hold onto the right toes, scooping the right rib cage underneath, and the left collarbone opens up. As you inhale, unravel left hand to the floor. Lift the right knee. We're coming out the way that we came in, left knee to the left elbow, and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, wild thing. Peel the left knee open towards sky first. As you kind of kick off of the left hand, left toes drop behind you, extend the left fingertips towards the top of the mat. You can either stay here or you can bend and straighten through the right knee. Maybe left knee taps the floor. One more full cycle of breath here. And then as if I press the slow motion button on a remote, can you roll back through your plank shape, wrists underneath the shoulders, pause. Slight tuck of the tailbone, knees drop any time that you need them to. Choose your vinyasa, or send the hips straight back, downward facing dog. Take an inhale here, and an exhale here. And then with your next inhale, sweep the left toes high. Bend into the left knee and open up the hip. As you do, option to drop right forearm to the floor. Traction the heart back towards the right thigh. Strong press into the right elbow, right forearm. As you lift the right forearm, curl in, left knee to nose. In breath, kick back, open up as right forearm drops to the mat. 2 more times, curl in, left knee to nose, press the floor away from you. In breath, kick back, open up, right forearm to the floor. Last time, left knee to nose, curl in. Step the left foot between the hands as the right knee softens down, Anjaneyasana. Upper body lifts. Traction the left kneecap forward as you open up the heart space as much or as little of a back bend as feels supported here. Hands to the heart as you kick off of the right toes, moving towards standing split, but without the help of the hands, if you can, of course, if you need to use the hands to kind of save a fall or to find some stability for a moment, you can. Again, you're welcome to play with a hop up towards handstand here if you've got that in your practice or if that's something that you're playing with. Next place we're meeting is in our three-legged down dog, so hands plant to the floor. We're kicking off of the left foot to plant left foot at the back of the mat, right toe sweep high, three-legged downward facing dog. Take an inhale. As you exhale, right knee, right elbow. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2. Step the right foot to the outside of the right hand. Drop the weight of the hips first. Maybe you come up onto fingertips. Can you get a little bit more broad through the collarbones and a little bit of a bounce with the hips just for a couple of moments here. As you settle your way back to stillness, soften the left knee to the floor. Reach the right fingertips forward first, find length, and then a big half circle that you're drawing in the air with your right hand as you open the heart to the right, option to bend into the left knee and reach right hand for the left foot. With or without the grip of the foot, roll the right shoulder open, left rib cage underneath. Can you peek the heart up towards the sky and stay pressing the floor away from you with the left hand? As you inhale, we unravel left toes to the mat, right hand to the mat. Lift the left knee, again out the way that we came in, right knee to the right elbow, squeeze the heel in towards the glutes, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2. Wild thing, peel the right knee up towards sky as you kick off of the right hand and roll the right shoulder onto back body. Drive the hips up towards the sky. If you wanted to play with bending and straightening through the left leg, maybe tapping the right knee to the mat if that's available, if it's within reach, in a way that feels safe for your body. And eventually, we'll roll back through our plank shape, but don't skip that part. Don't skip the plank, don't skip the shape. Hold here for a moment to really meet it. Wrists under shoulders. Backs of the thighs press up towards ceiling. Press the floor away from you with the hands. And then either a vinyasa or send the hips straight back. Downward facing dog. Take a big inhale here. And a big exhale here. Okay, we're gonna add on. It's gonna get spicier, it's gonna get funkier, and then we're gonna cool things down. Drop both forearms to the floor, dolphin pose. Heart back towards thighs. Heels kick towards floor, as much of a bend in the knees as you need to meet this shape. As we press into finger pads and knuckle pads, let's take a really big bend into the knees, like you could touch the hips to the heels. As you're ready, a big hop to the top of the mat, forward fold, lift the forearms as you kick off of the toes, Uttanasana. In breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale, fold, let it go. In breath, rise, come all the way to stand. Arms sweep up and over. As you exhale, cactus the elbows, open the heart space. In breath, get tall, reach through fingers. Chair pose as you exhale, palms touch at the heart, send the hips back, slight tuck of the tailbone, core is strong. As you take your next exhale, lift the hips, fold. In breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale, fold, plant the hands, crow pose or handstand, your option. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, your vinyasa, or send the hips straight back, downward facing dog. Once you land in your down dog, right into the sequence, right toe sweep high, bend into the knee, open the hip as you drop left forearm to the mat. Option to stay right here or to roll open into kind of a funky wild thing by dropping right toes behind you and lifting right hand from the mat. You're on the left forearm here. Knowing that we get to come out the way that we came in. So right hand to the mat, right toes sweep high, bend into the knee, open hip. As you lift the left forearm from the mat, curl in, right knee to nose, step the right foot through. Left knee drops, in breath, Anjaneyasana, palms touch, open up through the heart space. Standing split with or without the help of the hands, kick off of the left toes, left foot sweeps high. As much of a bend in the right knee as you need to plant the hands to the floor. If you want to come up towards handstand along the way, you can. Otherwise, right foot hops to the back of the mat, three-legged down dog. As you exhale, left knee, left elbow, either hold or Ekapada Kundanyasana, hurdler pose. Right toes could lift as left knee finds its way to the back of the left elbow. Right toes back down to the mat. We're coming out through the knee to elbow. So press the floor away from you, round through back body, traction the left knee up towards left armpit, and then step the left foot to the outside of the left hand. Drop the weight of the hips down. Soften the right knee to the floor. Reach left fingertips forward first, and then an opening up of the left shoulder as you maybe bend into the right knee and reach left hand around to hold onto the right toes. Unravel the shape. Left hand to the mat. Lift the right knee, left elbow one more time here. And then again, we roll it open to our wild thing. Left toes behind you. Left shoulder onto the back body as you drive the hips up towards the sky. Option just once to bend into the right knee. Maybe left knee taps the floor. Straighten through the right leg as you inhale, roll through center, plank pose. Wrists underneath the shoulders. Your vinyasa, or send the hips straight back, downward facing dog. Land here with a big inhale, and a big exhale, let it go. Drop both forearms to the floor, dolphin pose. Tractioning heart back, kicking heels down. As much of a bend in the knees as you need to meet the shape as we hold for 5, 4, 3, 2. We're playing with our hop to the top of the mat. Big bend into the knees, hips towards heels. As you ground into finger pads and knuckle pads, hop feet to the hands, Uttanasana. In breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Out breath, fold, let it go. In breath, rise all the way to stand. Out breath, cactus the arms, peel the heart open. In breath, get tall. Out breath, bend into the knees, chair pose, hips back, hands to the heart space. Core is engaged. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, lift the hips, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift and lengthen. As you exhale, hands plant, either crow pose or handstand or any other inversion or arm balance you'd like to hold for the next 5, 4, 3, 2. Your Vinyasa, or whatever movement you'd like along your way to a downward facing dog. Our last time through this sequence, left toes sweep high. Bend into the knee, open the hip as the right forearm maybe drops to the floor. Your option to hold here. Your option to open the left toes behind you for a forearm wild thing. Drive the hips up towards the ceiling as you extend. Left fingertips towards the top of the mat. You're engaged in the glutes. Out the way that we came in. Left hand to the mat. Left toes sweep high, bend into the knee, open hip. As you lift the right forearm from the floor, curl the left knee to nose. Press the floor away from you to create space for the left foot to step between the hands. Right knee drops, in breath, upper body lifts. Anjaneyasana, as much or as little of a back bend as feels supported, send the hips forward. Palms to touch at the heart as you kick off of the right toe, standing split. Right foot sweeps high. As much of a bend in the left knee as you need to plant the hands. Either a handstand along the way or straight back, left foot to the back of the mat. Right toes high. As you exhale, right knee, right elbow. Hold or hurdle or pose. Right knee finds its way to the back of the right elbow as you shift forward. Think locust pose with the heart broadened through the collarbones, gazes forward. We're coming back out through knee to elbow, left toes to the back of the mat. Right knee slides up towards right armpit. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2. Right foot steps to the outside of the right hand. Drop the weight of the hips. Whew. Getting spicy. Drop the left knee down to the floor. Right fingertips reach forward first, and then big half circle with the right hand as you roll the right shoulder on top of left, and option to bend into the left knee. Right hand reaches for the left toes. One more exhale to find the depth of your twist, rolling the heart towards sky. And then unravel the shape, left toes to the mat, right hand to the mat. Lift the left knee one last time, right knee, right elbow, or right armpit as we hold for 3, 2, 1. Open up one more wild thing, right toes behind you. Right hand could lift. Hips drive up towards the ceiling. Right fingertips reach long. Inhale rolls you center. Plank pose. Your Vinyasa, or send the hips straight back. We meet in a downward facing dog. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, a big wave of the spine forward. Find your plank shape. One at a time or both at the same time, come down to the forearms, forearm plank. If it's possible, you could open the palms up towards the sky here in your forearm plank. Knees can drop anytime you need them to. If it's possible, with the hands open, or with the backs of the palms to the floor, a couple times can you open and close the fists. Giving the wrists a little bit of a break. Let the weight of the hips drop just a little bit, but not to where the hips are sagging. Make sure that the tailbone is tucked and you're pressing the floor away from you at the forearms. Drop the knees down to the mat if they're not there yet. Untuck the toes. Roll through your Sphinx shape. Rotate the palms back down to the mat if they've opened up towards the ceiling. So you're nudging the heart forward. Option to lift the forearms, elbows to a hover or forearms all the way from the mat, as long as this feels supported in the back body. Take an inhale. As you exhale, lower the forearms back down to the floor. Lower the heart back down to the floor. Slide the hands underneath the shoulders. And with the toes tucked for a bit of a stretch in the bottoms of the feet, press back towards your child's pose. Toes tucked, hips towards heels. Inch the fingertips a little closer to the top of the mat as you let the heart be heavy down towards the floor. Big inhale, fill up. Big exhale through the mouth, let it all go. And round through the back body as you shift forward towards a tabletop position, wrists under shoulders, knees under hips, just for a moment here. Big step forward with the hands, melt the heart down towards the floor, puppy pose. And heart tractions towards the mat, gazes towards the thumbs. The knees are underneath the hips and the hips are lifted. And a slight tuck of the tailbone to initiate kind of the lift of the spine, press into the palms, step the hands underneath the shoulders. This time coming up onto fingertips, let the palms lift from the mat, and on your exhale, round through the back body. Tailbone tucks in. Chin reaches in towards chest, back of the heart reaches towards sky. I'm going to give a couple of options as we make our way into our last kind of big posture before cooling things way down. Come back towards neutral, drop the palms to the floor. Either back to puppy pose where we just were, big heart opener. Dolphin pose is the next place I'll talk us into. And then once you're in dolphin pose, either headstand or Pincha Mayurasana, forearm stand, any of the above which are in your practice and feel nourishing, playful, supportive, inviting at this point in practice. So puppy pose is a place you could go, or come down to the forearms, elbows underneath the shoulders with the toes tucked, lift the knees, dolphin pose. Toes walk in towards the elbows. Ground finger pads, knuckle pads into the mat. Welcome to hold here. Great place for building strength. If you want to take this towards headstand, creating kind of a basket shape with the hands and bringing the crown of the head to the floor, you could. You want to take this towards forearm stand, lifting a leg, whichever one feels natural to lift, and then kicking off of the other one. I would suggest if you're working towards your pincha, if it's newer, rather than trying to kick straight there, give yourself a couple of kicks along the way to kind of gauge how much momentum you need in order to reach the balance. Maybe you catch the balance, maybe you don't. No worries either way. Maybe there's another variation you play with, and or maybe you play with kicking off of your other leg. I suggest it. Last few cycles of breath here. Let's say final 5, 4, 3. If you're in your puppy pose, you might start the journey back out. If you're in your pincha or headstand, you might start the journey back out. If you're in your dolphin pose, let's all drop the knees to the floor. Untuck the toes. Knees stay together as hips come towards heels, kind of like a condensed child's pose here for a moment. And then walk the hands back towards you so we can come to seated on the shins. Hands circle around to interlace at the low back. Broaden through the collarbones, open the heart space here just for a moment. Eventually, we're going to keep the interlace of the hands, but bend into both elbows and nuzzle the fists into the right rib cage. Pull the back of the heart and the low back into the left forearm. And then drop the right ear towards the right shoulder. Swap this out for the other side. Hands nuzzle into the left rib cage as left ear drops to left shoulder. Right shoulder pulls back, down, and away. Inhale, come back through center. And release the interlace of the hands. Let's reach the fingertips forward and around like you're giving yourself a big hug. Hands towards opposite shoulders. Maybe hands work their way to hold on to opposite shoulder blades. And then find a round through the back body, like you could pull the shoulder blades away from each other and kind of reveal the back of the heart space. Chin in towards chest. And then release. Come back to center. Come all the way down to the back body. We're going to make our way down pretty quickly here. I'll give space for one last back bend for practice. So if you wanted to come up towards bridge pose or wheel pose or any other back bend that you'd like. If you want something a little bit more supportive, restorative, you could bring a prop underneath the hips for supported bridge. So if you're headed towards bridge pose, feet are hip width distance, hands are down by the sides, and then grounding into the heels, drive the hips up towards the ceiling. If you're headed up towards wheel pose, hands will come up by the shoulders, fingers point towards the feet. And then a press into the hands and the feet. Maybe you come to the top of the head first, or if you're comfortable, you can lift straight up. Wheel pose, Urdhva Dhanurasana, or bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. Make sure your glutes are strong, they're engaged. You're engaged on the back line of the body. The transition out, the release out, is whenever you need it to be. So no rush. Again, when you do find your way out, make it slow. Let it be gentle along the way. And when you do land back down on the back, arms come out to a T. Let the feet walk wide towards the edges of the mat, and the knees drop in towards each other, knees in towards the center line. Close down the eyes. Letting body know that we are working our way down pretty quickly. Keep the feet where they're at, windshield wiper both knees over to the right. Pause. Feet stay where they're at, knees roll through center and over to the left. Pause. And back through center, knees up towards the sky, feet to the floor, maybe a little bit of kind of just a shimmy side to side a little bit, releasing the low back. And then eventually finding a central kind of still point. You can pull the knees back into the chest. Maybe hands come to the shins, or you could clasp opposite elbows around the knees, pulling thighs, inviting the thighs towards the rib cage. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, settling into your Shavasana, extend the legs long to the top of the mat. The arms drop out by the sides and the palms to face up. Allow for the fingers to naturally curl in towards the center of the palms. You might roll the shoulder blades underneath you just slightly to lift the heart space a little, to create a little bit more space across the collarbones. A deeper breath here to help you land and release into this posture, this last posture of practice, which is one of rest and integration and pause. Full permission and encouragement to linger here for longer and to finish out your practice in Shavasana. If you're ready to start the journey back up, let it begin with a wiggle of the fingers and the toes and taking in a little bit more air on your next in-breath. You might circle out the ankles and the wrists. You could extend arms up overhead, finding a big full body stretch. We're working our way eventually towards seated, so knees could pull in towards chest along the way. You could also roll onto a side and pause there for several breaths. Eventually, we make our way seated with eyes closed at the top. Hands can either find their way to the lap or palms to touch at the heart space, this last moment to honor the closing of this practice and really the transition space from the practice that we get to do moving on our mats to the practice that we get to do moving in the world, and that both are equally valuable and potentially nourishing to our lives. So honoring the transition with a space, a notion, a nudge towards a gracious heart, a space of gratitude. I thank you for showing up, for practicing with me, for moving together, and for putting in the work with you, for you, as you. I look forward to more soon. Namaste.